Okay, hello everybody. My name is Martha Alter Hines, and I'm here yet again with Jude Currivan. It's so wonderful, as always, to be with you, Jude. Um, I'm assuming most people watching this will know who Jude is, but in case you don't, in case you don't, Jude is one of my favorite humans on the planet, and is a world-renowned visionary. Has a background in quantum physics, all kinds of all kinds of amazing academic credentials, and in addition does very powerful work around the world, really, I would say, bridging cutting edge science with spirituality and visioning of where our world has the potential to be going and hopefully is going, and really supporting us all in this major change moment we're all in. Is that all accurate, Jude?
Yes, it is. Well, I don't want to. No, no.
Oh,
I'm certainly not bragging about my own work, but what I do hope I do is serve the good of the whole, and by the good of the whole, I'm talking about not just our human family, but our planetary home and beyond. So I'm here in that sense to serve, to show up and get out of the way, and serve wherever I can.
yeah. Well, I'm not asking you to endorse all of the bragging. I'll do the bragging. I'm just just confirming that the facts are correct. Yeah.
Yes, they are. Yes,
Okay,
they are.
good. Yeah. I will brag for you and everyone else will chime in because we all love you. So that's great. Um, well, yes. So what we are feeling called to talk about here is something I've been hoping to talk about with you more in depth for a couple of years, and so this is very exciting. We're going to be really focusing today on um, our relationship with the multidimensionality of the spirit world, the Gaia world, the all of the infinite, what I would the way I term it is infinite benevolent beings who are all we're all in this together. We're all doing this moment together, and the way I feel it is that it is natural to who we are to have a constant, continual relationship with infinite realms, infinite dimensions, infinite beings, and we've that's part of what we've forgotten in a lot of ways, and now I think there's a big wave of remembering what that is. Um,
Mm.
and I know you have had this very strong connection yourself, but one of the reasons I really hope to talk with you about this is because you also do have that very strong academic and scientific background. So one of the things that feels really important as we're shifting into remembering that natural relationship is this is not a psychotic, this is not a, extremely out there phenomenon. It is a very real and grounded
Mhm.
reality that we have this relationship, right? And I think you are a perfect um, microcosm of the bridge of the grounded reality and the reality that we are part of everything and therefore we have a relationship with everything.
Mhm.
So, anyway, that's the context of what I'm really excited to get into. And um, would you like to just start with, yeah, what arises as you're hearing me saying any of that, and where is your spirit going or your heart going right now with this?
Well, first of all, thank you, Martha. It's lovely to be together again. And what comes for me is you'll use the word natural, because in our prevailing worldview, based on a sort of science of separation and materiality, there is no place. There is no place for multidimensional sentience. There's no place for us being microcosms of a conscious universe. That paradigm is one of a universe without meaning, without purpose, where consciousness arises somehow accidentally, eventually, as a result of complex brains. And it doesn't have a place for love. It doesn't have a place for meaning and purpose. And it most certainly does not have a place for multidimensional levels of sentience, let alone our natural ability to be able to engage and communicate with them. And so I feel that at the moment you're talking as well about the remembering. our indigenous brothers and sisters and communities have never forgotten. Ancient wisdom understood this. It's just that, over the last few hundred years and progressively, and certainly from the 19th century onwards, science, which we base so much of the way we see the world through this lens of secular science, has told us that it's nonsense, and now that's being turned on its head. And what I love about the turning on its head is that it does converge with these universal and spiritually based wisdom traditions. And it is bringing this naturalness of these attributes and phenomena and abilities and communications and relationships, because the heart of this is relationship, into our lived experience if we choose it to, if we choose to.
Yes. That point about relationship, I would love to come back to that. That feels like the key, the important point here. Right, right, exactly. Um, and would you like to also take us maybe to the beginning of your own journey and share whatever you feel comfortable sharing about your own relationship with these multiple dimensions? Or I
Yeah,
know, yeah, you say that it started essentially when you were about 4 years old. But anyway, tell us whatever you want to share. Yeah.
I'm comfortable with sharing because what I feel is important now is as we do remember that we're willing to share, not to impose, not to say it's this way and this is the only way, because in my experience and understanding, having been on this path since I was 4, and that's nearly 70 years, is that it's unique for each of us and yet it's common for all of us. And so sharing our stories help, I would suggest, to see both the uniqueness and the commonality, and that this is something that connects us and we can come together with. And I've had the joy of being with many indigenous communities around the world and sharing these stories, and the way that I hear these stories from indigenous communities and cultures, which they're just the lived reality, is so beautiful and so powerful and so life affirming. And that's really my experience over my whole life, that actually being able to be open to these relationships, these multidimensional relationships, with ancestors, with angels, with divas, with star families, with you know a, the living sentience of our planetary mother, Gaia. These for me are not unusual. They're certainly not supernatural. They are certainly not paranormal. They are supernormal. And but realizing that those supernormal levels of awareness is who we are, and I am not special. Yeah, unless we're all special.
Well,
I'll
special.
say I'm special if I can say we're all special, but we all have this because this is naturally who we are. So, as you say, it truly is a remembering of this in our lives. And we have so much support, it seems to me, at the moment, at this pivotal moment, this momentous moment of transformational change.
Mm. And what, let's say, realms of beings or types of beings particularly have called to you or currently called to you or all of the above? Who do you have the most strongest relationships with or feel the most alive in your own life?
That's like saying, who's my favourite auntie?
Oh, okay, maybe that's not fair. Um,
Or cousin, or for me, it's so multi-leveled. It's so
mhm,
multi-leveled, and for me, it's not that. If you think of a radio and the radio frequencies, yeah,
mhm.
when you're listening to a particular radio station, you're listening into one frequency. You're not listening to every frequency all the time. So for me, it's very much about, just as I don't speak with my family members all at once, all the time. It's just taking that understanding to a wider
Yeah.
expression of what family is. So for me, every family member is wonderful and beautiful and kind and loving. And if I've got a particular query, or I'm sensing that I could really appreciate some insight or some wisdom, then I can call on, the best for that guidance. And sometimes when I'm called in, as I have been over many years, where there's been a difficult situation, it may be on a battlefield, it may be in a war situation, conflict situation, it may be with someone's psycho-spiritual well-being or trauma. Then I can call on specific guidance as to give me deeper insights so that I can serve others, because it's never about how does it benefit me directly, it's how can through me the relationships, the engagements, the communications, the guidance serve others. Um,
Yeah, the way I experience it, I'm curious if this is similar or different for you.
mhm,
I may have said this to you before. So every day in my praying, I have a routine I do every morning, and I get almost every single day, I get taken out of the time-space continuum into the void, and then I'm shown the whole time-space continuum as a chrysalis, basically. And I know it's a little different than how you describe it in, your books, but that's how I'm shown it. And then what
yeah.
I experience is actually all the time, even if I'm not in my praying, just sitting here now. I always feel all of time, all of space, all dimensions as a unity, as a wholeness like this. And then similar to what you were just saying, if I'm in a moment where either I'm going to be channeling or I'm just praying or I'm whatever, I'm in my own difficult personal moment, whatever it is,
Mhm, mhm,
I will tune in and I will say, okay, for example, sometimes let's say I'm feeling like I have a stomach ache or something, and I'll lie down in
mhm,
my
mhm,
bed and I'll be thinking, oh, I have a stomach ache. And then I'll close my eyes and I go, okay, whoever is meant to show up,
mhm,
I welcome you, basically, right? And
mhm,
then various beings will either come to be with me, like there's
mhm,
this ocean being woman who often comes and sits on my bed next to me, and she'll do this like ocean magic medicine, and then my stomach ache will go poof. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, I don't tend to. I'm similar. I don't have a one type of being that is, the go-to for me. It's that I experience all of time and all of space always, and
mhm,
everything is infinite and like fractal and immediately available. So
mhm,
it really, I kind of go to the divine intelligence to bring in whatever energy is in the highest good
mhm,
in that moment.
mhm,
Is that
mhm.
similar-ish for you or?
Yeah, I think it is actually. I mean, it's both and it's there's like there's an open welcome at all times,
Hmm.
but also both and. I am in that sort of, if you like, that infinite, beyond universal space and time, and at the same time I'm in space time, so I can have that sense of this incredible universal journey for the last 14 billion years, and all the voices, multidimensional and incarnate, that have participated in this evolutionary journey to this point. So rather than and I really do appreciate. I talk about standing on the bow wave, standing at this moment of here and now on the bow wave, going forward, so I can be beyond our universe and at the same time be within it and part of this this flow of time, this journey of causality, this opening, this emergence that we're all part of as well. And yes, like you saying, to open myself sometimes to just say, yeah, whoever, divine intelligence, source, universe, spirit, calls in at this time. And sometimes it's specific. I have a specific query, I have a specific call, whatever that may be. And then it's almost like placing a call to, whoever is best placed to offer that guidance, insight, or whatever it may be.
Beautiful. So then specifically, I would be so curious to get your perspective on, before we started recording, you were mentioning, yeah, feeling again, put it in your own words, feeling strongly that our solar system energies, consciousnesses, beings are very much part of, we're in relationship with them clearly.
Mhm.
They have a role in being in relationship with us. I would love to hear about that. And I would love to hear also your sense of our relationship with star beings, cosmic beings beyond our solar system. Um, anything yeah, feels alive for you there. What,
Yeah, happy to. Well, I've actually described our solar system with a SOULAR rather than SOLAR for a long time,
yeah,
because in a perspective of a unitive universe where mind and consciousness aren't what we have, but as I've said often, what we and the whole world are, then the whole of our universe is sentient, is essentially conscious, and every, as you mentioned the word fractal, every scale down from the minute to the whole is part of that sentience, and that would therefore include each of us as microcosmic co-creators of this universal intelligence, and also our planetary home, our beloved Gaia, Mother Gaia, and the next sort of level beyond that, as it were, of the sort of the scale of our solar family, as part of this sort of interrelated dynamic family of consciousness, um, to galactic level and beyond. So for me, that again has just been part of my journey for many years. I was absolutely in love with the stars at around the same time that I was beginning to have these walk between worlds of multidimensional experiences. And so for me, I've always been very familiar as part of that journey, that we are, um, we're members of our universe's vast communities of life, both, incarnate, biological, but far beyond that, as well as multidimensional.
exactly. Right. So I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you or not, but so I'm an astrologer and I teach an astrology course. And I also,
Mm-hmm,
so this year it's my second round of doing Astrology 101. And then this year also I've been teaching a course called The Stars Speak. So the way I approach astrology and especially teaching astrology, Heather Ensworth also has a similar approach. I am absolutely adamant that it needs to be based in us having our own personal relationship with the beings of the cosmos, the beings of the planets,
mm-hmm,
and even the moons of the planets, and all of
mm-hmm,
it. Okay. Um, and so as part of both of those courses, I teach the astrology and I teach the astronomy of it. I'm not an astronomer, but to the whatever extent I can understand the astronomy. And then I channel the beings to not to give answers, but I channel in a way that holds space for each person to come into their own relationship with
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
every one of the beings. And the latest being in the star course we're being with, I haven't channeled yet, I'm going to be channeling next week. I'm so curious what's going to come through with this, is the Orion Nebula. And this is coming to me because something so powerful about, for example, this Orion Nebula, right, is my understanding. Again, I'm not an astronomer, I'm sure you know way more about this and you're not, anyway, but the Orion Nebula is the closest, tell me if I'm right on this, it's the closest place to the Earth, to our solar system, where stars are being born. Is that accurate? Do you know this?
But I don't know that it's the closest. It probably is,
Ah,
because the stars of Orion and the nebula is around the same thing, is only a few hundred light years away. So it's they're very close.
yeah.
I'll share more after you finish your point, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the reason I'm thinking of this is because for about the last year and a half, this Orion Nebula has been calling to me so powerfully, and I could not figure out what in the world, out of anything and everything, in the whole star course I was planning and my astrology 101, there's something about this Orion Nebula. I would see it and I would go, and it would just be like zooms, like this energy toward me. And I didn't know anything about it. And then I started researching it. And then I went, oh, wow. There's so much going on here. Just the energy, the energetic makeup of it is so, so,
Mm,
so, so powerful. And it felt to me like, again, I haven't channeled, so I haven't had a deep personal relating with it yet, but just the sense I get is that when we, for example, connect in with this nebula where these stars are being born and there's all these baby stars, it just
mm,
feels like hmm, it feels like it partly has a role, connecting with it has a role in helping us. It's like a medicine. It helps us come
mm,
back to almost the beginning, before the beginning of time, because it's where things are being birthed, right? And even
mhm,
when I was looking at some of the NASA photos of it and some videos of it, it was reminding me of like an egg sac of inside, of a like fish egg sac. So it's like
mm.
this microcosmic, macro, micro mirroring of things. And yeah, just so much beyond words, so far beyond words, what was coming through for me as I was just even being with it, even before channeling to be with it. So that's just one of so many examples, right? Anyway, go with, yeah, you were gonna say something. Yeah.
Well, yes, I intuited that you were going to say what you said before you
Hmm.
said it.
Oh,
Um, because I am presuming, before I go on, I am presuming that when you talk about the Orion Nebula, this is, I think we call it M42, and it's the nebula that goes from the belt stars of Orion
right
and it
below.
goes beneath that. And I don't know if you've ever noticed looking at Orion, but there was a little run of stars that come down from the belt, and then there's this very light fuzziness.
Yeah.
So you only see with our physical eyes, we only see a tiny part of that. And yet, to the ancients, and of course, Orion as the hunter was also deeply metaphysical in the sense that if you look at the way that Orion continues, the constellation continues as Orion's arm. It links to the ecliptic of our galaxy, and so and opposite in the sky to Orion is Ophiuchus,
Yeah.
whose foot connects to the ecliptic, actually to the center of the galaxy. So there's a whole sense of consciousness, ensouled consciousness coming in and coming out of manifest experience that is key with Orion. And the ancients talk about that area below the belt of Orion as the phallus of Orion. Now, that suggests that there was intuitive, if not beyond that knowledge, that it was a birthing place because it's the way in which those energies come energetically birth, but also a birth literally, astronomically into stars. And we started to find some incredibly interesting, intriguing um, bodies within the nebula that seem to be just moving around in pairs, but not as planetary systems, but something else. So I haven't checked on that for the last year or so, but it's intriguing. So it's something that you might want to delve into because I do feel that it is the place. When I said I fell in love with stars when I was a child, we had a house that faced south, and I would sit on the front step and look at Orion as it came into its culmination. And that was exactly what drew me. It was that, and I didn't know it was called that then, but that was the place that called me. And I had such a sense of relationship. So I'll be intrigued, I'll be absolutely fascinated and looking forward to what comes through for you in the next few weeks in that relationship.
Yeah, well, and then that ties in. I mean, again, I would love your thoughts on this, but so then I was also, looking, I'm sure you know this is obvious to you probably. I didn't realize that the belt stars of Orion apparently are lined up with the celestial equator. Are you
Yeah,
not?
they are, but they're not along it because Orion is not a zodiacal. Is not as on the zodiac. So of
Mhm.
course, unless you're on the actual zodiac, you're not along the sort of the ecliptic of the as it were of the galaxy.
Okay, okay, okay. It's a brain pretzel, right?
Yeah.
But and then there's this, this sense that perhaps the Great Pyramids of Egypt were aligned with the Belt of Orion and, other parts
Hmm.
of the world similar.
Hmm.
And then so there's this phenomenon with Orion, the belt of Orion in particular, and then with the Pleiades, right? That there's this
Hmm.
commonality of stories that have existed
Yep.
all over the globe for the same
Hmm.
part of the sky, but it's like the Aboriginal traditional
Hmm.
mythology. My goodness. The Aboriginals in Australia have very similar stories about the Pleiades that,
Hmm.
Native
Hmm.
Americans in
Hmm.
the continent do. Yeah, so what's your thought about how and why and what's going on there? I have feelings, but yeah, curious about
Well,
you.
there is. I mean, I've literally sat round fires with in the heart of Australia with an Aboriginal family, and they've told stories about Orion and the Pleiades.
Oh,
And then going to New Zealand and hearing the same then, and of course the Pleiades, as you say, there's so much layers to this. But what I would suggest is that, um, gosh, where do you start? Uh, there is this understanding that Orion is the masculine hunter, and that the Pleiades, the seven sisters, are what he was hunting, and especially the youngest daughter. And this comes through in Maori tradition in New Zealand. So there is not a balanced relationship between Orion and the Pleiades. There's more a predator situation, a hunter situation. So again, I'd be really interested in your sense of what comes through. Um, what I would say is that also there is a tradition that it was the Pleiadian grandmothers, as they're sometimes called, who guided the Lemurian people into their consciousness and conscious insights. So there's a connection between the Pleiades and Lemuria that also seems to be coming forward again now. Um, and I can't, it's interesting because I haven't had this sort of conversation about Orion and Pleiades for some time. And certainly 12, 20 years ago, actually, 20 years ago, when this whole idea of Orion as the hunter and the Pleiades as um, being preyed upon was very uncomfortable for me at the time,
yeah.
and still is uncomfortable for me now. So I would be very interested to see what your insights bring forward on this. And it may be something that has evolved beyond that relationship. It may be something that is part of the dynamic, um, or an ancient dynamic that may have played itself out. I don't know, but I get a sense it's playing out at far more than human levels here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so I mean, obviously many thoughts, feelings, but kind of two main layers where I would be curious to go with this. So, on the one level, when I just think about the question of how in the world did, people in North America and people in Australia have the same exact story about the
Yeah.
plague, how in the world did this happen? What I kind of imagine is, um, again, going back to the fact that I would say humans naturally have relationship with
Yes.
existence, right? And so I think again we've forgotten that, but now we're remembering this. So when I go deep into myself and I come into that natural way of being in relationship with
Mm-hmm.
the stars, the planets, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
um, they inform us. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
Not that these stories were made up out of somebody's brain. I mean, I'm guessing it was that the stars themselves were somehow yeah, we were relating with them. They and us are the same. We're family and um we're in a dynamic continuously. And so it didn't matter what part of the planet we're on because they are who they are. And so then they're going to be,
And
yeah.
yeah, and don't forget, Orion is one of the few, and it's such a powerful constellation. And of course, it's not just Orion itself. You've got Sirius and Ursa
Mhm.
Major. You've got Ursa Minor, not Ursa Minor. You've got Canis Major, Canis Minor. You've got Gemini. You've got the Pleiades. You've got a whole star field
Yes.
that is so deep into the cultural memories and myth history of so many peoples, and also they're visible pretty much wherever you are on Gaia. I can sleep under the stars in the central of Australia and look up and see. Orion and all of this ahead of me. I can do the same here at home in the UK. So there is this visibility of the whole of this star field and its innate sentience and story that I think is to some degree why it is so deep in our, cultures around the world.
Mhm. Absolutely, yes. And then to come to the point about, what is there a sort of a changing energetic with regard to the predatory nature of these original stories or not? So one thing that has been coming through for me as I've been channeling the first set of stars, so now we're in month 8, I think, in the year-long journey I'm holding. And every month I channel one either star or star system or yeah. So, I wouldn't call the Orion Nebula a star. It is a nebula. But and last month I channeled the Pleiades, which is a star system, not
Mm,
a star. But
mm,
yeah. Anyway, each month as I've channeled one of these cosmic beings, part of what seems to be coming through almost every single month is that when I'm tuning in to try to channel the actual cosmic being, but often what's
mm,
showing is spirits, like beings of that
mm,
star system, and they are more often than not, sharing with us their medicinal tradition of some
mm,
type.
mm,
So, for
mm,
example, when I was channeling the Andromeda Galaxy, what came through was an entire, very powerful. It's actually free on my YouTube channel if anybody wants to listen to it. 'Cause that one felt so important. I put it on my YouTube channel, even though it was part of this course. It was a channeled experience of being held to be in a healing of our cardiovascular system. It was very
mhm,
specific. And when I have channeled Sirius, the beings of Sirius have repeatedly been channeling healing systems of mostly related to DNA and
mhm,
or the nervous system. And so I channeled the summer I was channeling Sirius and Syrian beings, and then immediately after I channeled the Andromeda galaxy, and the two basically were kind of working together.
mm,
So it was first the Syrians were channeling this very, very powerful healing to be with the spinal column and the nervous system and DNA. And then the Andromeda beings came in and sort of added in healing related to the cardiovascular system. And so
mm,
it's just sort of interesting. It's like it feels like not only the star beings, but actually also many, many, many realms of Gaia, like the inner
mm,
earth beings who I've been channeling, and like little people. I channel many, many the ocean beings. It feels like a big part of what's coming forward is them helping us to remember their ancient healing knowledge as well. Is this
mm.
anything that you've felt?
Yeah, well, there are a couple of thoughts on that for you. Going back now to Orion
Mhm.
and the Orion Nebula, and the sense of the birthing place in there, and the way that that is the phallus of Orion. There's something about initiating and impregnating the masculine and the feminine for birthing. And maybe that's more about the relationship, the Pleiades, less about, that predatory, but more about perhaps that coming together of masculine and feminine in that level of consciousness. And so birthing stars that themselves are, if you like, solar opportunities to carry on this emergent evolutionary arc that is far more than biological male female. It's a universal principle of yin and yang, and maybe that's what's playing out in the Orion and the Nebula and the Pleiades, and somehow through human misunderstanding or misuse of that divine sacred marriage, that's where the predator prey comes in.
Ah,
I don't know, but I'll be interested to really see whether that is something that comes through for you.
ah,
Um, yeah, exactly. And And if that is it, there may be some healing in that, because of course one of our deepest schisms is the schism between, our embodiment of the divine masculine, the divine feminine, which is within all of us. But the way we've played that out, certainly over the last period of time, and certainly in our Western societies, has been dysfunctional and traumatic. And so maybe part of the remembering is this sort of stellar star families um, ability, and ability and inherence of that way to balance it and to birth a balanced yin yang expression into stars and planetary systems. So
Yeah,
just a thought for you.
beautiful. I love it. This is a question, again, I don't know if this is something you're tuned into, and if it's not, you can just say no. We can move on. But have you been following at all the three-eye atlas phenomenon? Do you have any thoughts on that you want to share?
I've very deliberately not said anything in public,
Okay.
other than to say that, certainly there appear to be some major anomalies between how Three Atlas has behaved and how we would normally perceive, you know, a comet to behave. And I think we're going to find out fairly soon.
Hmm.
I know that NASA a few days ago came out and said nothing to see here, move along. I don't think that answered the basic anomalous measurements that had been made and seen. So I think we're still open to that. I'm doing what I call hold the space for what might come through. Um, but we will know soon. I think we will know soon, because I think Three Atlas comes as close as it's going to
Yeah.
in mid-December, so less than a month away.
Yeah.
I'll back that back to you. What's your sense of what's your sense of Three Atlas?
Well, I my main sense with Three Eye Atlas, but also again with everything in existence, kind of the similar answer, which is I think I default to really holding space for every person to have their own relationship with it,
Yes.
with
Yeah.
anything. So, for example, on my YouTube channel, I I channeled, there's a meditation there basically for people to be with three, not only Three Eye Atlas, but also the Swan Comet and the other, I can't remember all the names, but all these beings that are, coming in closer into our solar system, toward the Earth, toward the sun, all at the same time in the last 2, 3 months. Yeah, so that was my guidance, was to not really give so much answers about it, but more to say,
Yeah.
hey,
Just
yeah, let's we all have ways of being in relationship with these anything, literally anything.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and find your own truth there. There was one moment at the very, very end of that video where I did let the more of the energy of Trey Atlas come in
Hmm.
as I was channeling, and there was just one sentence at the very end that was more directive, which was something like, um, "I am love playing out as love," something like that. It was pretty generic, but yeah, I didn't feel right labeling it in any way personally, and so I didn't. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And then my guides also got very, very clear with me a couple of months ago that I'm supposed to be hosting an event on December 19th, which happens or turned
To
out
be the closest.
yeah, that
That's
day.
the one.
Yeah. And it's also, this new moon conjunct the galactic
Hmm.
center. So it's
Hmm.
a very powerful day anyway. And they are having me host an event where I'm going to be channeling for people to step in as new earth, meaning like make the choice
Mm.
to be love incarnate, which we already are, but to really consciously step in that way.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's a whole topic, but um right, that's kind of the
And I love that you're doing that. I love that you're doing that on that day. And I mean, as you were saying earlier, as we were talking before we started recording, this is, yeah, astrologically and consciously, this is just such an extraordinary moment. of choice and potential for transformation. And certainly as we go into 2026, all the outer planets have changed, effectively changing signs. So we really are moving through this enormous wave of emergence. And so I think our conversation today about the multidimensionality of reality and welcoming that into our lived experience is so timely, because for me, for us to take this journey of evolution, if that's what we choose, and we won't do it unless we choose love, in my perspective, is also to literally, that remembering is then opening ourselves to these incredible relationships. And at the same time, I think there's an important point here about, you talked about your truth and our truth. I really, from my own perspective, choose to discern between my truth, which I'd rather say is my view, my opinion, my perspective, and a deeper truth, a universal truth, because I think there's a triad of values that has been present for millennia, from Aristotle and Confucius to now. I think they're more important now than ever before, and we've lost sight of them to a great degree. And that is beauty, truth, and goodness.
Mm.
And it seems to me that without understanding the universality of truth, that we can, the universe essentially to me is both living and loving and truthful
Mm, mm, mm.
and truthful. And so, seeing the levels of misinformation, disinformation, if we can't settle on the ground of universal truth, then we have, it seems to me, a very incredibly difficult, if not insurmountable task of trying to come together and come together in love. So that is so important. So I'm not a fan of my truth, your truth. What I'd rather say is this is the lens through which I see. This is my experience. This is my perspective, my experience, my opinion, whatever it is. But I do feel there's something profound in acknowledging the bedrock of universal truth, of a living, loving, and truthful universe.
Mm. Well, and then this brings me probably to the last thing, if you feel okay, just one more layer.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, to go back to I think to go back to what you mentioned at the very beginning about relationship, right? And
Mm,
coming back into relationship being so important, so key, uh, because we've been in this illusion of separation essentially, and so this separatist mentality.
mhm, mhm.
Um, and it feels like one of the ways we can really have a touchstone into what truth actually is precisely to remember what it is to be in relationship to life. Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes.
exactly.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Mhm.
Wholeheartedly agree. Because a worldview of separation, truth is fragmented.
Yeah.
Truth is fragmented, and then it becomes easy for disinformation, misinformation. It becomes, we talk about, and I don't like this term either, a post-truth.
I haven't heard that.
Oh, get very annoyed with that and grumpy, because it is so, truth is so fundamental, because for me truth is also about trust, and trust is also the bedrock of right relationship. So there is something really profound in universal truth that helps us to bring trust back in to our relationships, and then we can literally come together and love together and grow together and move on together. Without that, I don't know ways in which we could.
Right, exactly. And I feel like there are actually, so I say this so many times, and probably you and I have said this together many times, but it is so easy and natural and understandable for us to externalize the problems and the solutions both, right? To say, oh, that big thing over there doing XYZ that's so horrible, um, is the problem. And if I'm focused here on myself, that's number one, maybe selfish. Number two, isn't really going to fix that problem over there, et cetera, right? So it can be so easy to think. doing our own inner change isn't important or isn't the most important thing to be doing. And talking about this switch out of the illusion of separation and back into a relational way of being
Mm, mm,
feels like one of the most important things we could possibly do, actually. And we can do it in
yeah.
so many tiny ways every single moment, right? So, I mean, I can think of so many examples, but you know the book Braiding Sweetgrass?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So she talks so much in there about all of this. Uh, and so just even in the way I don't know, we're in relationship with it, let's say a tree or anything,
Mm,
and
mm,
we can look at that a tree or let's say Saturn or the moon or the sun or each other as an object. We could say, oh, there is a celestial object out there, and that thing is doing this thing to me. Or we could look at the tree and think, oh, scientifically, I'm getting oxygen from the tree. That's a very separatist way of being with
mm,
it
mm,
compared to maybe coming back into our no, we are in deep relationship always with the trees, with
mm.
sun. I mean, really, the sun, right?
Yes.
The earth, all of it. And these are
Yes.
alive, literally alive sentient beings who know us and we know them,
Hmm.
and they, well, the way that she puts it in Braiding Sweetgrass, love us and we love
Yeah.
them. And to even switch back into that loving,
Mm.
relating just turns everything on its head instantly, right?
Yes. It does. It does.
Mhm.
And right relationship is about truth and it's about trust. And so, being able to stand in the universality of truth and build again trust. Those are this is our choice. This is our way forward, it seems to me. And indigenous communities have always known this, and wherever they possibly can have held on to these, because this is fundamental to who we really are. So as you say, Martha, us remembering that, us coming back into right relationship with the whole world, literally in all our relations,
Yeah.
is fundamental if we are to be able to evolve. So and not just survive but thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you have any closing thoughts about how you do that or how you recommendations, any thoughts of practical? I
my
don't
my usual one, which is choose love.
know.
Choose love. Because when we choose love, it seems to me that everything can flow in this way, this easeful way. When I choose love, I choose to be honest. And
Hmm.
sometimes that honesty is I call it loving truth. And sometimes it's uncomfortable for me to hear it or to speak it. But without loving truth, any relationship is only surface, if that. So I would say choose love. And as you said, you just said now, we can choose love in every moment. It's not to be saved up for something we choose, on a Sunday or high holiday. It's every moment. It's the way to, it is for me the way that I literally choose to live my life.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I had this.
and I would invite others to, I mean, I would invite anyone to just, and it takes courage. I'm not saying it doesn't because, but it's the only way we can find our way home into a remembered wholeness.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yes. I had just one moment that I was an experience I had the other day driving in my car to yoga class, and I live by the ocean in California. This is beautiful. The sky is like wow, so amazing, and it's pretty rare. It's kind of funny. It's pretty rare we have clouds.
Mhm.
We don't get a lot of rain. And oh my goodness. Anyway, that's a hilarious thing to say, but it's true. So we're now in the beginning of our rainy season, and so there were clouds in the sky, which was very notable. But what that did for me is I had this first time I've ever felt this way was that I realized, wow, so obvious. Gaia is of course land and water, but she's also her atmosphere, right? And
Mm,
she's the totality of her being. And so
mhm.
as I was driving, I had this just visceral feeling. Oh, wow. We talk about the earth holding us. No, she's literally holding us. Inside her atmosphere,
Yes,
the
yes,
clouds are part of what is holding us all
yes.
the time. It's like we're deeply incubated in the love of Gaia, always.
Mm,
And not to
mm,
mention the cosmos, right? But if we
mm,
just even focus on, it's like, oh. And it just takes the tiniest little switch of the that radio dial you were mentioning to go from like I could be driving along on the highway feeling stressed and uh-oh, I'm in my car and I'm in Southern California and there's cars and this and that. And or, I mean, and that's all true, but and or I can take a moment and go,
mm.
wow. You know,
Yes,
and
yes,
yeah,
yes,
amazing. And then what arises in my body and my being from her, that because our
yes,
bodies are her. So
yes.
she's always here. We are her. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree. And each morning I welcome that relationship with all of Gaia,
Mm,
and all our solar family and all our galactic family and all our universal family, families, but
mm,
family, um, in all the dimensions and realms, and all in the universal heart, all in the heart that holds the whole.
beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Is there anything that you would like to let people know about that you're doing currently? I didn't even ask before we started. The usual Jude
The
Currivan.
usual. There's a lot happening, as you well know, and a lot of what I'm doing at the moment is not public facing. It's actually, as I say, serving those who are also serving, and helping them to sort of deepen their relationships and find ways of linking up and lifting up together for, to support transformational change. So there's so much happening. But what I would say is that, first of all, it's always a delight to be with you and your community, and to wish you, because we're recording this on the eve of Thanksgiving, a wonderful Thanksgiving, and just to invite us all to be thankful for all the gifts of our universe offers us every day in every moment.
Mm, thank you so much, Jude.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you, my dear.
Mhm.
Bye
Yeah.
for now.